I am honored today that the first person that I get to introduce and bring to you is Miss Jennifer Ballou. She is a veteran. She is a Gold Star spouse. She's a certified professional life coach and the founder and CEO of A Joyful Life with Jennifer. And today she's going to talk to us about that important topic, mental wellness. Take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Judy, for that kind introduction. It's such an honor to be here with MilSpouseFest today and all of you amazing military spouses. Before I get too deep, can everyone see my first slide and you can hear me okay? All right, awesome, cool. So like Judy said, my name is Jennifer Ballou, and I am a military spouse. Just like all of you, I'm also a retired Army veteran. I served for 21 years. I'm a mom of 3. You can probably see in the picture that there's a substantial age difference between all 3 of my children. As a matter of fact, I've had 3 children in 3 different decades. Don't really have time to go into all of that today, but after I share a little bit about my story, you'll probably get a little bit of a better understanding why. Life doesn't always quite turn out or go the way that we plan, and I would imagine that a lot of you can relate to that. I am also a women's wellness coach and a yoga teacher. I also speak to different audiences such as this. And my ultimate sort of goal or message is to help women veterans and military families navigate life changes while living a whole, balanced, and joyful life. And I know that none of you are strangers to life changes. And so I would ask you to type in the chat box what change you are either currently navigating or have recently navigated that might be making your mental wellness a little bit off balance. So type that in the chat, and I'm going to just kind of sort of keep my eyes on that while I continue on. For as long as I can remember, I was really focused on my physical wellness. But as you know, I'm here today to talk to you about mental wellness. And it wasn't until 2010 when a life-changing event happened to me and my family that I was really forced to realize and understand just how important mental wellness is. I was deployed to Afghanistan, and my husband, Eddie Laredo, who is there in the picture, was also deployed to Afghanistan. Eddie was an infantryman, and he was at the tail end of his deployment. As a matter of fact, he was on his last combat mission before redeploying home to be with our children, as I was pretty much new in Afghanistan. I was just starting my deployment. So the plan was, and you all know that planning things in the military usually doesn't work out as we hope. The plan was that our kids would be without both of us for a very short period of time. And Eddie was extremely excited to be the one that was home with the kids because that was a role that I typically held. Unfortunately, on June 24th, 2010, Eddie was on his last combat mission and he stepped on an IED. He immediately lost his left leg and was unable to be evacuated out of that area immediately because his squad came under attack. I was notified that Eddie had been in an accident And since we were quite a ways away from each other, right away, people started working to figure out a way to fly me to the hospital that Eddie was going to eventually be evacuated to. And I've got to tell you that on that plane ride, all I could think about was that Eddie did not have a left leg, but we were going to be okay. I was going to be by his side. Our lives were going to be dramatically different, but we were going to make it. Unfortunately, when I arrived to the hospital where Eddie was, he had passed away. He passed away minutes before his 35th birthday on June 24th, 2010. And as you can probably imagine, my life changed in an instant. And things that I thought were super important all of a sudden no longer were. As a matter of fact, the only thing that I really cared about in that moment was getting back home to my children who were back in the United States with family. That was almost 11 years ago. Next month is the 11-year anniversary of losing Eddie. And although I am in a super happy, balanced, and whole place in my life right now, it has not been a smooth road. And so, although I'm here to talk to you about mental wellness, and although I'm a women's wellness coach and a yoga teacher, I just want to make it very clear that I struggle, that I don't have all the answers, but over the years, I have sort of gotten a PhD, if you will, in this life lessons of things sort of being challenging, as well as sort of studied and gotten certifications on ways to help people like me, you, live a more whole and balanced life. So, like I said, I'm in a place of joy now, and my mental wellness is the strongest that it's ever been. But this wellness journey, specifically mental wellness journey, is one that has to be tended to, just like a garden. You know, the flowers aren't going to always come back or continue to bloom if we don't take care of the garden, right? I know you've all heard the saying that we can't pour from an empty cup, which is very similar, and that's so true. So we're going to talk a little bit about mental wellness. And so what I would love to hear from you in the chat right now is, how do you define mental wellness? So when you think of mental wellness, or you hear somebody talking about mental wellness, what does that mean to you? I think it's super important to get really clear on what certain things mean. And so just pausing and thinking about what it means to you can be really beneficial. Let's see here. Let's move on to the next slide. So I found this definition from the Global Wellness Institute, which I love.
Hey.
Hey, am I getting you at a bad time? I'm driving home from Post.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm in a...
And so, as you can see there, it says that mental wellness is an internal resource that helps us think, feel, connect, and function. It's an active process that helps us to build resilience, grow, and flourish. And so I see some really great definitions coming in the chat. And sometimes it's helpful to hear other definitions or how other people describe certain things to maybe help you consider, in this case, mental wellness in a way that you might not have before. The thing that I would really ask you to consider in this definition and then throughout this presentation and then days, weeks, and months after this presentation is that mental wellness is a lifelong journey. So it's something that we have to work at each and every day. And it doesn't take a ton of time, which I'm going to share with you in a few minutes, a few exercises to maybe help you explore some ways that you can build your mental wellness that you haven't before. Let's talk a little bit about self-care. I feel like self-care is talked about quite often these days, and self-care is a great thing that we can incorporate into our life. It's something that we do. And although self-care practices can benefit our mental wellness, that isn't always necessarily the case. So self-care is or are the things that we do, right? Those are the things that we do. It could be going to get a manicure and a pedicure. I do that every once in a while. And I guess I could probably give an argument to how it helps or supports my mental wellness because I get some time away from my family. But it's not something that I'm doing on a regular basis. Does that make sense? So self-care, I'd love for you to put in the chat something that you do, self-care, that enhances your mental wellness, and then why. So what do you do self-care wise that enhances your mental health or your mental wellness, and why? What's your argument for why it enhances that mental wellness? Self-care is about recognizing what factors contribute to our emotional and physical well-being. And this might mean learning your emotional triggers so that you can understand why you react in certain situations. I had a really great conversation over in my booth when we were on the break with a lady who is super self-aware. She understands what her triggers are. And so the next step is to incorporate some things into her life when those triggers happen to support that mental wellness. Exercise, which we'll talk about in a moment, although it does enhance your physical wellness, it can also enhance your mental wellness as well. Some other things that I'm seeing in the chat, I love this, getting outside, it calms me, from Janet. Another, being outdoors, so many being outdoors. I love that, meditation. And so this is a great time to pause and recognize that, or ask yourself, what season of life are you currently in? And it's super important to understand that, because what is working for you or what worked for you previously might not work for you now based on whatever season you're in. It's big PCS season for all of us, right? A lot of military families are PCSing right now. So you might not be in a place where you have that consistent routine where the kids, are at school. Well, hello, COVID, where the kids are at school for a certain period of time every day, and you have the opportunity to focus on your mental wellness. So let's move on. How to build your mental wellness. There are so many different ways to build your mental wellness. I'm going to just kind of talk about a few of them here on the slide, and then we're going to practice a few of them together. Oh, I love that, Terry. Volunteering is fun. A few volunteering. Tiana says volunteering is fun. I love all of these different things that are coming through in the chat. Keep them coming. So how to build your mental wellness. So the first one, exercise. The experts say that about 30 minutes most days of the week of exercise will help build and enhance your mental wellness. And so a thing about exercise, it's super important to explore and find what exercise you enjoy, right? So like, I love yoga, I love CrossFit. My husband, I was going to use the word hates, but I won't speak that strongly for him. He's not a fan of yoga and he's not a fan of CrossFit, but he enjoys other types of physical activity. So it's important to think about what types of exercise you enjoy so that you're more likely to do them. Sleep. This is another biggie. The experts say that prioritizing sleep, and I know you've heard this before, but getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, we're all a little bit different, will build and enhance your mental wellness. Additionally, really trying to focus on being consistent in the times that you go to sleep and the times that you wake up are very important when it comes to sleep as well. Nutrition. This is a big one for a lot of us. It doesn't have to be rocket science. We don't have to get super nitty gritty here if we don't want to. Focusing on eating whole foods, a lot of fruits and vegetables, and drinking a ton of water is a great place to start, as well as maybe just eliminating some of the processed foods that you eat. Sort of switching gears a little bit, this is another conversation I had over in my booth. Plug for the booths. Come visit us at the booths. It's a great opportunity to have a little bit more of a one-on-one or a small group conversation, but focusing on the things that you can control. This is a super important one in terms of our mental wellness. I know you can relate in spending a ton of time and energy and getting all wrapped up and up in arms about things that we just can't control. Now, we're all human, and I am certainly not suggesting that any of us are ever going to get to a place where certain things we can't control don't bother us. However, just reminding ourselves that we can't control everything. But for example, I can control the way that I react to situations. I can't control the way others do, can be super helpful in building mental wellness. A gratitude practice. I'm going to save this one for a few minutes from now because we're going to do that together. Mindfulness, I'm going to save that one because we're going to do a little exercise together. Surround yourself with positivity. This one it's so powerful. And I think if you take a moment to consider the types of media that you're surrounding yourself with, it might be easy to make a few changes here. So for example, music is a big one. What types of music are you listening to? What is the message of that music? Or TV shows, social media. We all love social media. Sometimes it can be a little bit much, but like, Who are you following on social media? Are the people that are popping up on your news feed, are they making you feel positive, or are you feeling like all of a sudden you go down this rabbit hole of comparing yourselves to them, or getting, negative emotions when you see what pops up on their feed? So those are just a few ways, other than the people that you surround yourself with in terms of friends and family, that you can have surrounding you. And then another one is avoid mind altering substances. Obviously, avoiding drugs is one of them, but another one to consider is how much caffeine and alcohol that you're consuming. I could talk about all of these, from exercise all the way down to caffeine and alcohol consumption, at length. But this is just sort of to put some bugs in your ear for you to consider some small changes that you might be able to make or implement into your life in order to enhance your mental wellness. And again, I'd be willing and happy to talk about any of them with you over in my booth. So let's pause here. And let's see, time check. I've got about 10 minutes left, so this is perfect. We're going to do just 2 quick mental wellness practices together, neither of which are probably new to you or you've never heard of before. But the ultimate goal here, or my intent for doing this in this forum, is to demonstrate to you that we don't have to spend a ton of time each and every day investing in ourselves. It could be as little as 2 to 5 minutes on a regular basis. And ultimately, I guarantee you'll see some really amazing positive changes. So the first one is a gratitude practice. What I would love for you to do in the chat, well, before you go in the chat, just take a moment, if you're in the situation, to be able to just close your eyes for just a moment. Close your eyes and think about your day so far. I know that it's early. That's okay. Think about your day so far and think about one thing that has happened or that has appeared in your day so far today that you are grateful for. And then once you get it, open your eyes and type in the chat what that thing is that you're grateful for. And so while I see those, MilFest, duh, love that, yes. So you can't repeat MilSpouseFest, you got to give some other ones. But yeah, I mean, snuggles with a pet, these are so awesome. So just taking a little bit of time, preferably either at the beginning of your day, focusing on the day prior, or the end of the day, focusing on the day that just happened, and coming up with 3 things, give or take, 3 is a great number, that you are grateful for. And then taking it a step further and maybe writing it down in a journal, or like we're doing here, sharing. Another great place to do this is at the dinner table, just sharing with your family. And sometimes you might have resistant teenagers that aren't super on board, but eventually they might get on board. Sharing the things that you're grateful for throughout your day, it helps spread that gratitude and joy. And just reading these things like baby hugs. Are you kidding me? That's amazing. Watching my children grow. There are so many good things around us, but wouldn't you agree that it's so much easier to notice the negative things? Like, I could rattle off, without even thinking twice, a ton of negative things that have already happened today. Sometimes it's a little more challenging to think of 3 good things, but It's so worth it. It doesn't take a ton of time. And the benefits to this practice are tremendous. All right. Feel free to keep them coming. I love all of these. Thank you so much for sharing. The next thing that I would like to navigate with you is just a short breathing and mindfulness practice. So again, if you are in a place where you're able to close your eyes, feel free to do that if that feels comfortable for you. If you want to, or if you're able to recline, lay down, that's a great position to be in. Otherwise, just sit up nice and tall in your chair, close your eyes wherever you are. And then just take a moment, just take a few deep breaths, just a big inhale through the nose and a big exhale out of the mouth. Maybe open and close your mouth a few times to soften the jaw. Relax the eyelids and then allow the breath to become natural. With the eyes closed, so eliminating that sense of sight, I'd like to invite you to allow the other senses to open up a little bit wider. So perhaps you notice a particular sound in your house or wherever you are that you might not have noticed if you didn't slow down and close the eyes. Maybe you hear some birds chirping outside or the sound of people talking in the background. Maybe you hear a TV in the background. Just notice the things that you hear. Turn your attention now to anything that you might smell. Is there a particular scent in the air? Perhaps you put on your favorite lotion this morning. Maybe your kids are cooking breakfast or somebody already cooked breakfast this morning and you can still smell it. What are the things that you smell? Next, I'd like you to just take note of the support of whatever surface is beneath you. Maybe your chair, if you're laying on the floor, or a bed. What is supporting your body? What can you taste? Is there still some morning coffee or tea on the back of your tongue? Maybe the breakfast that you had this morning, the mouthwash that you swished around in your mouth. Just noticing all of these things by just slowing down, closing your eyes, and pausing. And then before we open our eyes, I'd like you to keep them closed for just a minute longer and start to tune in a little bit more to your breath. And as you continue to breathe, can you lengthen the exhale just a little bit more than the inhale? So maybe you inhale for 3 or 4 seconds and then you exhale for 5 or 6 seconds. Just take a few rounds of breath, lengthening the exhale. Allow your eyes to gently flutter open. And notice if there was any shift in yourself over the last what, 3-ish, 4 minutes. If you notice the change, no matter how small, type what that change is in the chat so that we can see how this affected you. Thank you for just exploring these 2 quick mindfulness, mental wellness practices with me. Of course, you can spend a lot more time doing these types of things, but it's probably very common amongst each and every one of us that we just don't have 45 minutes to an hour to invest in the middle of our day in ourselves. But you don't need to spend that much time. 2 to 3 minutes is all it takes. This is something that I say to all of my clients. I say it to myself each and every day because oftentimes we want these huge, gigantic changes in our lives immediately, but it's the small, consistent steps that lead to big, sustainable changes. And so I would just ask you to consider that when sometimes it feels like you're stuck or you're just not going anywhere. So what's next? After we're done here or on the break, while this is all just kind of fresh in your mind, I'd ask you to either jot down on a piece of paper or pull up the notes app in your phone and answer the question, what it is that you need right now to enhance your mental wellness. What do you need? It might be something completely different than the exercises that we did or what we kind of chatted about today, and that's okay. What do you need? And then how can I support you? I would love to connect in the booth. I've said that a few times. I have also created a coupon code for all of the May MilSpouseFest attendees to join me in a free virtual yoga class. I have a virtual yoga studio. I'd love to connect with you outside of here and maybe offer you or guide you to a little bit more mental wellness in the areas of yoga and meditation. But if there's any other ways that I might be able to support you, you can find me in a lot of different places, and some of them are here. You can shoot me an email. I'm on most social media platforms. I really appreciate all of your time today. I appreciate MilSpouseFest for inviting me. These ladies have been such a pleasure. Thank you all so very much. And I think that concludes my presentation.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm sitting here taking copious notes, and I just have to shout out to all of the people in the chat. I mean, you guys, in every question that Jennifer asked, you guys are some strong people. You're going through a lot of challenging things, and we're so glad you're here. And I love that there are connections being made in the chat. You know, I have a similar situation. Let's connect afterwards. That's what this is all about, is that connection piece and helping each other through this life. So thank you so much, Jennifer.